Good evening.
How is everyone doing tonight? So glad to see you guys. Excuse me.
It's Thursday. I know what today is. Today is Thursday. Good evening, everyone. Come on in and join us for this live. We're excited to be back with you. I'm just getting ready for the comments, making sure you can hear us. All right, let's get started. All right, so good evening, everyone. Welcome back to day number 7 of our 16 marriage principles for 16 years. We have 80 of them, but we're giving you 16 of them for now as we continue to celebrate our fabulous 16 years of marriage. We celebrated our anniversary this month, and we're sharing one principle each and every day through the end of July. And these are principles that have helped to shape our marriage relationship. And we truly pray that tonight's conversation encourages you wherever you are in your own relationship journey. And so let's go ahead and dive right on in. We won't be before you long, hopefully.
Gotcha. So, our marriage principle number 29 is vulnerability is part of intimacy. True intimacy requires more than physical closeness, it requires emotional honesty, trust, and the willingness to confront fears and insecurities when they surface.
So good. Vulnerability is part of intimacy. So, intimacy does not just start in the bedroom. Intimacy is not only for the bedroom. Intimacy, first of all, is throughout the day, every day. And vulnerability is one of the areas that helps our intimacy when we are able to be vulnerable. Let's talk about what vulnerable. Let's
Vulnerability is
tap into what it is first. So, a generic meaning for vulnerability is the state of being exposed to harm, attack, or emotional injury.
okay.
So, you're exposing yourself to the potential to be harmed or attacked, or even have your emotional state injured. That's at the basis of what vulnerability is. But I want to share with you a psychological approach in relationships of what vulnerability looks like. So, vulnerability is the state of being open, taking risks, and exposing your true feelings or uncertainties, right? So, rather than a sign of weakness, psychological research has been noted to define vulnerability at its core as courage and emotional depth. So, for those people who feel like exposing yourself or opening up your true feelings or opening up your true uncertainties is a sign of weakness, it is the exact opposite. It is a sign of courage and emotional depth. So, vulnerability is a part of intimacy and it is a part of our strength. So,
Wanted to give a definition from the relationship side of vulnerability. So this is keyed in more towards relationship versus just being vulnerable generically. So it says being vulnerable in a relationship means dropping your emotional walls and letting your partner see your authentic, imperfect self. It requires courage, again, the word courage.
mhm.
It means sharing your deepest fears, insecurities, and needs without knowing exactly how your partner will react. Now, that's true vulnerability
Love it, love it. Dropping the walls
of emotional support.
of emotional support. I love that. And truth be told, if you are in love with me enough to, well, maybe we shouldn't say that. If there may be kids out there in Facebook land, but if you're vulnerable, if you're in love with your spouse enough to see all parts of their nakedness, then you're in love with them enough to see all parts of their emotional nakedness, all parts of their heart, all parts of their insecurities, and you're in love enough to show those parts of yourself as well. And the better I know you, the better I'm able to understand you, the better our intimacy or the deeper our intimacy can be, right? So, marriage has a way of revealing parts of our heart that when you're dating, it's oftentimes concealed, right? So as life begins to unfold, married couples discover fears, they discover insecurities, they discover expectations that they were not aware about before, and then they discover areas that still need healing. That is exposure to the 10th power, right?
Yeah.
Your spouse sees you in ways that other people simply cannot see you, right? So
Or
you're
should not.
or and should not see, right?
Yep. So rather than running from those moments, we learn that emotional honesty and vulnerability create opportunities for deeper intimacy, greater trust, and lasting growth. Mm.
I love that. I love that. So when you think of vulnerability, babe, why do you think it's difficult for a lot of people, a lot of couples to experience vulnerability or to be vulnerable with their spouse?
I think one of the reasons I think about vulnerability, I look at Samson. He's we call him strong, weak man. He's got the physical strength to be able to do impossible things that men cannot, should not be able to do, but by the power of God. But he couldn't find a place to be vulnerable to anyone. So he had the wrong place he went to be vulnerable to. And the person, in a negative sense, allowed that vulnerability to use it in the wrong sense. So what I want to say is when a person is being vulnerable to you, you have to be able to earn their trust. They have to be able to trust you with the vulnerability, because if they show themselves, the other person has to show how, if they can manage it or navigate, or be able to build upon it. But if you are vulnerable with your spouse, and you're being open with the person, and then they won't go and share with other people, and then you hear about, like, oh man, I didn't know you was this kind of thing. And then you're like, how did you know? This was a conversation in the bedroom, and why is it being thrown out on the streets, kind of thing?
Mhm.
So you're learning to be able to trust one another, and that's the more you learn to trust each other, the more vulnerable you can be. Because if you don't feel comfortable, or if you don't trust the person, then you're not going to be vulnerable. But the beautiful thing is, as you're married or getting ready to get married, you're growing in that area. I think one of the things, difficulty part is, sometimes we have to say it and say, "Hey, this I'm being very vulnerable with you right now, so please don't share this with anybody, or don't, just between us. It's not meant for any other people to
Yeah,
hear.
yeah.
As they say, shh, it's a secret. So don't be telling all the secrets, because the people that know the secrets don't know how to use it properly. They may use it against you. So I think that's the difficulty part, at least, that I'm thinking about at the moment.
So what I'm hearing you say is it's difficult for some couples to be vulnerable or for a spouse to be vulnerable because uh, they want to make sure that they can trust the person that they're being vulnerable with, right? That's very reasonable. No one wants to share their private parts with just everybody to see. They want to know that you can be trusted, and also that you have the capacity to handle whatever it is I'm being vulnerable with you for. And truth be told, that is part of what marriage is about. I mean, you get married to become one. So there is nothing that you can't tell me. There is nothing that, it should be hidden from your spouse. You should be able to expose your whole self to them. Now, I will say that doesn't happen overnight. That comes with time,
Yeah.
and building that trust. But it is definitely something. If you want your bedroom life to be on point, then you got to learn how to open up and be trusting, and trusted to and by your spouse. So I love that. I love that answer about being able to trust and also having the capacity to handle what the spouse is sharing. All right. So, what are some things? how has marriage helped us to become more emotionally honest with one another?
Um, More emotionally honest with one another.
Hmm.
Emotionally, it's kind of hard to share your emotions with someone, especially I think if it's a man, because we're made to suck it up and keep it moving and kind of thing. Think about back in my day, anyway. Maybe I might be dating myself too much, but there was a singer called Ralph Tresvant. I think it's some Tresvant, and oh Lord, I forgot the name, but sensitivity. He sings something about the word sensitivity or something of that nature, where the man is being sensible or being shown his sensibility. The man want with I can't remember the name now, but it's coming to my mind, so I'm just saying it. But he sings about man with sensibility to be able to be emotional or to be able to show his emotion and not have people look at him like crazy, right?
Mm.
So I think emotionally honest with one another is the ability to share your emotions with someone and not have to kind of hold back, I guess, in a sense.
Mhm.
Obviously, I think in everything in a relationship has to be tested little by little, unless you're old enough to walk out there and just share. You have to grow in that trust factor. I think that's always the comeback. It's the trust factor. If you want to be vulnerable and if you can trust the person or you feel comfortable, because if you don't feel comfortable, you're not going to share with nobody, even if it's your spouse. So,
Let me ask you this way:
okay.
since we've been married, do you feel like you are more emotionally honest over these last 16 years?
I think I'm growing in that area. I don't think I'm truly open with my emotions or with my thoughts because I just process it. So the other thing I thought about was the fact that, like, when I have emotionally charged feelings or whatever the case may be, I can't actually show them sometimes. So what I have to do is well, you know what? I think I'm gonna save it for later because this is good, but I don't want to give it away. So I'll leave that alone. But I think I'm growing.
All right, you see that, y'all. He's holding back on you.
Yeah, because I want to bring it in the right time. So,
Okay.
because if I bring it right now, it may not make much sense, or it may not have the impact that I want.
I can accept that.
Okay.
I guess for me, marriage has helped me become more emotionally honest for sure. For sure, for sure, for sure, for sure. I am definitely an emotional person, meaning I am very empathetic. I'm very much so a feeler. And since I've been married, one thing that happens in marriage and in relationship is you can't hide. It is really, really challenging to live year after year after year and hide your true self from your spouse. Like you can only act and put on a show for so long, unless of course you have some
Pharisees blood in you. Pharisee blood in you.
sociopath or psychotic type of things going on there that are beyond the norm. But it's hard to be your untrue self in front of your spouse. You eventually have to show your true self, and so marriage has definitely put me in a space where I have to be open and honest. Because if not, in some cases, you can possibly implode or explode. And so it has helped me to, and also marriage has helped me to be more emotionally honest because I do feel safe with my husband. I don't think that my husband is going to share anything that I wouldn't want to be shared outside of our marriage. So that is that safe place that has been created. Now, all of us have things that we may not want to share, that even after you've been married for years and years, you quite honestly, you may have some things on the table that's still, on the table but hidden. Um, and so it doesn't mean that, you know, there are even some parts of your body, if you think about it without me going into details, there are some areas on your body that are still yet to be explored.
Yeah.
There are cracks and crevices that will probably not be seen. And so the same way, emotionally, there are areas of your life that you may not have shared because those areas you have taken to the Lord. But if there's anybody on this planet that I can share with, his name is Kamlesh K. Patel. There is no and even with the BFFs, this is my BFF, my number one BFF, and then of course you have friends outside of your marriage that you may share other things with, but vulnerability with your spouse is key, and it makes your intimacy level that much greater. All right, let's move forward.
So let me ask you questions or interrogate you, as you say. Was there a time when opening up emotionally strengthened our relationship? And I think you kind of answered that a little
Yeah,
bit.
I answer that all the time. Every single time we open up to each other emotionally, for me, I feel a freedom because it's like I don't have to carry that emotional burden anymore. I've just released it. It's no longer an issue. It's no longer a problem. We can work through it. We can work on it and move to the next thing. So every single time I open up emotionally, it strengthens our relationship, I believe.
How has trust made vulnerability feel safer over the years? I think I hit that a little bit myself, but
Mhm.
from your perspective, how has trust made vulnerability feel safer over the years?
Trust, like I said before, because I know that this is a safe space. I know that I can be open. I know that I can, my emotions can be out there with you, and there's nothing for me to worry about. So that level of trust allows me to be able to share whatever I need to share with you in time. All right. So what's the difference in vulnerability and weakness?
I've been thinking about that thought. I
Hmm.
was using the analogy of Superman. So Superman, or should I say Clark Kent? So Clark Kent and Lois Lane is like the couples thing. So Superman being vulnerable means that he's allowing Lois Lane, his wife, to know who he is. I'm Superman. This is who I am.
Pause for 1 second. If you are from the younger generation, I just want to make sure that we all know who Lois Lane, first of all, is and who Superman is. All
Yeah,
right, Google it. Okay.
yeah. So I look at that dynamics with Clark Kent revealing to Lois Lane who he is, his vulnerability. I won't say it's vulnerable. Well, yeah, I guess it is vulnerable because you're showing her who you are versus being Clark Kent kind of thing. So that part of it is he's being vulnerable, right? But the weakness part of it is that there's nothing he can do about his weakness. And I look at the word vulnerability. That means you have the ability to share with somebody, but the weakness is not something you don't have the ability in that part. So
Hmm.
the kryptonite is the weakness,
Hmm.
right? So if he's around kryptonite, he has his normal strength. So in the sense of marriage, when I think about vulnerability, is if I open myself up to you, will you protect me from my weakness?
Hmm.
Or will you do like uh, Delilah did with
Oh,
Samson?
that's what I was just thinking. That was gonna be okay. That was gonna be my
Go
story,
ahead, go
man.
ahead. Hit it
Yeah, I was gonna
since take
say,
over.
and by that same token, so Lois Lane was actually a blessing to Superman. She could handle both his strength, which was the outward part of him that everybody knew about, but she could also handle his weakness, the fact that there is something that he cannot defeat, that he cannot fight. There is a struggle and there is a fight where he could potentially be taken out. But by the same token, Samson in the Bible, he was vulnerable in uh, and using lack of wisdom, of course, he was vulnerable with a woman who not only took advantage of him, but
Hmm.
she basically cost him his spiritual life, but she also cost him his life. And so by sharing with him, he is I guess a biblical example of what could have
Super.
happened to Superman by
Yeah.
him opening up to her and sharing his most intimate secret. She used that against him, and so vulnerability, it is risky. I won't say it's dangerous, although it can be. It is risky because you don't know what the other person is going to do. You hope you know, but sometimes you don't know what the other person is going to do with the information they receive as a result of your vulnerability. So yeah, the difference is in vulnerability and weakness is vulnerability is it takes a strong person to expose their truth, right? It doesn't take a weak person to expose their truth. The person who is unable to expose their truth shows a sign of weakness, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. How can couples create an environment where it's safe to be honest?
Create an environment where it's just safe to be honest. Um, I want to say there are some things, like you said, that are vulnerable that you don't really can or don't want to share in that sense. So I think that's creating a safe place is being able to take these um, vulnerability to the Lord first, right? When you take it to the Lord and first, you relinquish those emotions or whatever the case may be to the Lord. And the reason why I say you take it to the Lord is because He can handle that. He can do something with it. And you expect God to do something with it. But when you take it to and then you talk to your spouse about those vulnerabilities. So when you're sharing it with them, you're not expecting them to be able to do something with it or even with your emotions because you know they're just as human as you are. There's only so much they can do to protect you from those emotional things. So that helps, I believe, is being able to take care of that part with the Lord, having a conversation, yell, scream, whatever you need to do. God can handle all of that and being vulnerable. And then when you share with your wife, it's not like you're looking for a solution
Or husband.
or husband. You're not looking for a solution from them. You're sharing it as a point of information so that you can have intimacy. And also the fact that when you share those things with your spouse can be able to pray for you as well and ask the Lord to cover you in those areas because there is some things that you just can't do. Right.
I love that you said that you when you're sharing it with your spouse, you're not looking for a solution. So that tells me as a wife, sometimes I'm just there receiving or allowing my spouse, my husband, to share. And in most cases, my job is to pray, to look and work to be, strive to be that Proverbs 31 woman and not be a fixer, right? I love it. Yeah.
Especially if you can fix it.
Yes.
I
Yes.
keep analyzing that same thing with Superman scenario because if there's a kryptonite there and you know that kryptonite is my weakness,
Oh yeah.
I may not be able to do nothing with it, but you can take the kryptonite and throw it away or do
Yeah.
something with it. So
Yeah.
that's part that you can play to help me with it so that weakness doesn't take me out.
Yeah.
There is some things that you can do to protect the person as much as
You
possible.
want to know what I'm gonna do? You know what I'm gonna do with the kryptonite? I'm gonna get my Thor hammer. We need to get a Thor hammer for one of our lives. I'm gonna get my Thor hammer and I'm gonna smash the mess out of that kryptonite. Okay, sorry.
It's the metaphor.
I had
and
that
analogy.
crazy cartoon in my head. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do to the kryptonite. I'm gonna Thor it. Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Okay.
Sometimes you're just sharing. You're not looking for a solution.
And
or
that's a
fix.
blessing because there's no pressure or stress from the spouse to like if I tell them they can't handle it, what they're gonna do? I don't want to put extra stress on that person because some things that there's nothing you can do. It's something that God has to work through your DNA or your lineage or whatever the case may be to work it out of you, and that gives you the ability to say, okay, I put it in the hands, Lord. I think about it. I said, am I in God's place that I can do something with this? No, there's some things that we can't do nothing about. And the things that we can, we pray for God's wisdom to say, how can I use this to help the person or help my spouse rather, so that we can be able to be, because God initial perspective is that they may be one. So anything that we can do to be one and the ability God has given us to do, we try to do it to make it that it becomes one.
Excellent, excellent. I love that. So we're talking about right now ways to encourage couples to create an environment that is safe for your spouse to be honest. And I would say to the ladies to make sure that we are not found in spaces where we are gossiping. Stay away from gossiping. Stay away from talking too much, because when your spouse sees that or hears that, it may make them feel like I don't know what's going to come out of her mouth. If she's constantly in the group of women or constantly in the middle of mess, it creates a little bit of uncertainty. So we want to make sure by us being a chaste female, being able to keep our mouths, keep our conversations as pure as possible, as much as possible out of the midst of mess. It creates a safe place as well. In our home, it is our sacred place. We're very hospitable. We do like to entertain people. But there are times where our home is private. This is our safe place. This is my husband's safe place. And so there is not always people in and out, always conversations that should not be going on here and stuff like that. So I want to make sure that our home is safe. It's a place of peace, so that he can be open and me can be open and honest, right?
Yeah.
So I want to encourage the couples who are struggling with being open and being emotional and vulnerable with your spouse. That's your ace boon coon. I'm from the west side of Chicago. That's your number one fan. That's your ride and live. That's your till death do us part. That's to the end of the earth. That's your us against the world. So there is a safety within your spouse that you have the privilege of taking advantage of, that nobody else really has that privilege or that access to your spouse. And so it is to your benefit to be open and to be honest, right? It is to our benefit to be open and honest so that our intimacy can be in every area, not just physical intimacy, but there is a level of satisfaction when you can be emotionally intimate, right? So we just want to encourage you on that matter. And then if there are the other thing about vulnerability, when there are temptations, seasons of temptations and seasons of not really knowing what's going on in life, seasons of hardships, you want to be able to, after you have run to God, you want to be able to go to your spouse and have a safe place to make sure that we don't have to run to other areas, right? So I'm looking at this scripture here in James 5:16. I really don't know if I want to go with this one, but it says, therefore, confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed. So that nobody's going to confess their sins to somebody that they don't feel like they can be vulnerable to. And I'm telling you, if my husband is having issues in certain areas, and if I'm having issues in certain areas, I want us to be able to go to each other, because I don't know that anybody else is going to pray for me like Cam is going to pray for me. I don't know if anybody else is going to lay out on the floor and snot and cry and pray and plead and all of that for him like I am, other than our mothers, maybe our mothers, so I want to make sure, and you should want to make sure that your spouse has that. Yeah.
And I think the thing is that in a marriage, as you look at the people that have been married for a long time, whether they're saved or not saved, when you look at that, they've grown and matured into the place of vulnerability. The other thing I was just thinking about was the fact that you want to be vulnerable at a time when you don't have to be. And what I mean by that is, if you're vulnerable before something really heavy or something really crazy or whatever the case may be happens, you're building your trust factor from the beginning. So you're able to have places of having, it's like if you go somewhere when there's trouble, like you call 911 when there's an emergency, don't wait until it's an emergency, but try to de-escalate, or to be able to take those time. Okay, intentionally say, I'm going to be vulnerable with you. I want you to be vulnerable with me. So you're building those muscles in a sense while it's peaceful, while it's quiet, while before something breaks off or goes off or whatever. So you're learning. So when the craziness does happen, it'll be just automatic. It's like praying. You don't go to, if you're only praying when something goes wrong, pre-adventure God will help you with this circumstance situation, but He don't want you to just come to Him just because what you can get from that person. You want to come because you love that person. You have that relationship. So same thing with our spouse. We want to be able to be in a place, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good, the bad, and the ugly,
Yep.
and the better. So if you are able to, you want to build those uh, building blocks together so that nobody can come in between. Because if you think about it, when the stuff hits the fan, who you gonna call?
Ghostbusters.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But it's like in a case of emergency, who you gonna call? Whoever you call, that's where who you can be able to trust that person or to be vulnerable with that person.
Yeah.
So if you haven't built that relationship, that vulnerability strength, then you're gonna go to your default instead of saying, okay, I need to redirect that. I need to build my muscles and my strength.
So good, so good. Building your vulnerability muscle. Yeah, we missed our time. We are not hitting this time target, but it's okay.
Okay.
We're gonna keep trying. Let's go ahead and give the assignment.
Okay, gotcha. So take time this week to share one hope, one fear, or one area where you need prayer with your spouse. Listen without judgment and pray for one another before ending the conversation. That's so good. That's what I was just saying.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So that's the challenge for this week, is to share a hope, a fear, and an area that you need prayer in with your spouse. And then the other spouse does the same thing, and then pray together. And you know what? I would even go a step further. This is a good idea for us. We should do this more. When you pray together and when you share together, one of you, if not both of you, write in your journal or write somewhere on your vision board or write somewhere in your vision what the Lord shares with you in that moment. I am huge on writing the vision and making it plain. So write in that moment what the Lord is sharing with you in that time. Because we're building something. As a married couple, we're building something. You get married for a purpose and a reason, and it's not always just sex. You get married to build something together and to advance the kingdom. And so it's really important that we understand that going in. And if we don't understand it going in, at some point in the marriage, hopefully we come to understand that we are building something together for God. It looks like you just had a thought.
I did.
The brain is working over here.
When you said build, I was just thinking about a pyramid. Okay, pyramid is supposedly upside down or triangle. So in building, I think the pyramid is upside down. So the shortest point is on the bottom and the longest point is on the top. So when you're building, you may start off with the tip of the bottom of the triangle.
Yeah.
And then as you build and you grow and you strengthen, you're building and you're growing, you're creating strength. I don't know if that makes sense.
So good. So good. Yeah, I get it. I get it. Thank you for that. Building and the pyramid, as you build up, the pyramid begins to expand out. So good. So once again, we want to thank you for joining us on day 7, our 16 marriage principles from 16 years series. We hope that tonight's conversation has encouraged you. We want you to join us again tomorrow as we continue sharing another principle that has helped shape our marriage relationship over the past 16 years. We're going to end right here and speak a blessing over you and wish you a good night. And we'll see you again on tomorrow. God bless you.